everybody, it's Eduardo, and today I'm going to teach you how to find the most valuable Instagram niche for you. Okay, so regardless of how much you know about Instagram growth tactics and how good your content and your products are, the reality is that the likelihood of growing and monetizing an Instagram account long term mostly depend on how saturated your niche is. I know that can be a hard pill to swallow, especially for those of you that have already spent a lot of time and energy trying to grow an account in a particular niche. But accepting that reality and taking the necessary steps to pivot into a niche that you're simply much more likely to be successful and monetize in is going to be the difference between being endlessly frustrated trying to grow an account in a niche that you're simply just not likely to grow in, and finally pivoting into a niche that you feel that Instagram growth and monetization feels relatively achievable. Now, what makes an Instagram niche valuable? The niches that are going to be the most valuable for you are the niches in which you have a high likelihood of being able to grow an audience that's large and engaged enough to be able to monetize long term. And for most people, what that's going to mean is finding niches that fulfill two requirements. The first requirement is to find a niche that's about a topic that you're sincerely passionate about. In order to be able to grow an audience that's large enough to monetize, you need to be one of the accounts in the niches that creates the most unique and differentiated content. Because it is that unique and differentiated content that's going to allow you to grow the audience. And you won't be able to create truly unique and differentiated content over a long period of time unless you're sincerely passionate about that topic. The second requirement is that you find a niche that isn't saturated. And the simple reason for that is that in niches that aren't saturated, you won't be competing with as many other accounts to be one of the main accounts that creates the most unique and differentiated content. Therefore, you'll have a much higher likelihood to be one of the top accounts in that niche. What you actually want to avoid is going into niches that already have a lot of people in them, that are very popular, that a lot of creators are already making a lot of money in, because those niches are already incredibly saturated and incredibly competitive. And therefore, you have a much smaller likelihood to be one of the main accounts that creates the most unique and differentiated content in that niche. All right, so now that you know that two of the most important requirements to find a niche that is going to be the most valuable for you specifically is to be passionate about the topic and to find a niche that's not saturated, let me show you a really simple system that I like to use in order to find those types of niches. So a really simple way to begin finding potential niches that are going to be the most valuable for you specifically is to bring out those post-it notes and on one side, write down all of the Instagram niches that you know that you'd be potentially interested in creating content about. In my case, that's ceramics, enamel pins, the niche of Instagram experts, ceremonial cacao, or macrame. Basically, you want to think about already established Instagram niches that you feel interested in. So after you do that, write down on different color post-it notes preferably your interests, hobbies, or passions in life. You could also include locations that you're particularly interested in or live in. Basically, just write down the topics that you feel that you wouldn't get tired of thinking about or creating content about. And once you have those two lists, mix and match them and make a list of the topics that emerge when your interests and your niches intersect. Here's how mine looks. Ta-da! So once you mix and match them, you'll realize relatively interesting topics start to arrive. For example, what would be a sub-niche of Dodger-related ceramics or mindfulness and ceramics? What about the sub-niche of plant-based food Instagram experts? For example, the sub-niche of ceremonial cacaos in Perth, Australia. What about the Great British Bake Off enamel pins or cryptocurrency-related enamel pins? So all of these sub-niches that emerge from niches that you already know and topics that you're passionate about are legitimate niches that you can potentially create value in. So write them all down, think them over, and select the sub-niches that you feel you're the most interested in out of all of the ones that came up. In my case, these are the three that I'm relatively most interested in. Mindfulness and ceramics, Dodger-related enamel pins, the Great British Bake Off enamel pins. These are going to be completely different for every single person because we all have different interests. So once you find the ones that you're most interested in, what you want to do is measure the size of those niches. And how do you do that? You can check out my other video about Instagram niches for an in-depth explanation about all of this. But basically, you measure the size of a niche by measuring the number of posts within the main hashtag of a niche, as well as the size of the following of the most popular account within that niche. So once you know that, what you want to do is do the research, identify and measure the size of the main hashtags and the most popular accounts of the niches that you find most interesting. I already did all of that research work, and it will require to explore Instagram, spend some time researching, trying to understand which hashtags people use about those topics, which are the main accounts in those niches, if there are any. And going through that process as well will help you just get a bit more informed about what's going on in these potential niches. But in the case of the ones that I picked, the main hashtag for the mindfulness and ceramics niche is right now Sen Ceramics with 2,000 posts. Most popular account there is Sen Ceramics with 3,600 followers, or around there. For the Dodgers and enamel pins sub niche, the main hashtag is Dodgers pin with around 1,000 posts. One of the most popular accounts there is this one with around 3,500 followers. And in the sub niche of the Great British Bake Off enamel pins, there wasn't even a sub niche of that on Instagram. So I found the one that was kind of related to that, which is GBBO inspired with 2,000 posts. This is where people show artwork or bakes that they've done that are related to the Great British Bake Off, basically creations that the community does about the topic. And the most popular account there, or one of the most popular, is this one with around 3,400 followers. Let me just show you quickly how I measured this sub niche so you get a better idea of the process. So what you want to do is open your Instagram, go to the search section up here, search for the hashtag, the main hashtag of the sub niche. In this case, it's Sen Ceramics. And here are the top posts from the creators in that sub niche. And it has over 1,000 posts, but if you search for it, here it tells you almost 2,000 posts in it. A great way to find the most popular accounts of that niche is to go to the main hashtag of the niche. In the top post section, just look around at who is creating the posts that are most often selected to the top post section. Here's how I found Sen Ceramics, which has over 3,600 followers now. And basically how you decide which one or which ones are some of the most popular accounts is which ones have the largest following and create content about that topic. Alrighty, so that's an example of how I got to these measurements. And once you have the measurements, what you want to do is identify what niche phase each potential niche is in. Again, I go into depth into this topic in my other video about Instagram niches. But what you need to know now is that all niches go through the same 4-phase life cycle. The introductory phase, when the sub niche starts, there's a small number of people talking about it. They're very passionate about it. Here in this phase, niches are the least saturated. You're also most likely to grow if you're in a niche in this phase, if it grows. And in general, the way you know if your niche is in that phase is if the main hashtag has between 1,000 and 300,000 posts and the most popular account have between 1,000 and 50,000 followers. The next phase, and the one which you're second most likely to grow and monetize long term, is the growth phase. This is when the topic becomes popular. A lot of people start entering the niche. Here, the key is creating the most differentiated content, which can be difficult because the niche is going to get more and more saturated with good content creators. And the way you know if a niche is in that phase, if the main hashtag has between 50,000 and 1 million posts, and the most popular accounts have between 50 and 500,000 followers. The next phase is the mature phase. In this phase, it's just going to be very unlikely to grow because the niche is already saturated, and most people simply aren't very likely at all to grow and monetize in a niche like this, regardless of what they do. And lastly, a niche that's in the decline phase, there isn't going to be any growth there, so don't even worry about that. And these are the ways that you can measure if your niche are in that phase. But what you want to do for this exercise is try to find if the potential niches or sub niches that you identify are in either introductory or growth phases, because in this phases you still have a relatively good likelihood of being able to grow your account and monetize it long term if you're able to create really good differentiated content. So based on the measurements that I did, all of the sub niches are in the introductory phase, which is a good thing because they're not very saturated. The key there is just how likely those sub niches are to grow long term, and there's no real way of knowing that except your intuition and maybe some research that you can do. But once you have identified them, what you want to do is pivot to the one you're most passionate about and you have the highest likelihood of being able to create high quality differentiated content. In my case, I'm just very passionate about the Great British Bake Off, and I think I can create high quality enamel pin content about that topic. And that's how I found an Instagram niche that's likely to be very valuable to me specifically. And again, just keep in mind that the measurements and the niche faces are not perfect measurements, but they're just a good way to get a better idea of how saturated a niche is. And ultimately, what you want to do is find niches that aren't already saturated. I hope this system helps you find a niche that's potentially valuable to you. If you go through it for the first time and you find it hard to find a niche, don't worry about it too much. It's actually incredibly hard to find a niche that's potentially valuable. So just see it as an exploration, keep an open mind, come back to it now and again to see if you find new niches after you've thought about it for a while. And another good piece of advice is that if you find yourself that you're in a niche right now that's already saturated, that you've been trying to grow in for a while and you haven't been successful, just don't be afraid to pivot into a new niche. The reality is that if you keep yourself in the niche that you're already in, you likely won't be successful anyway. So might as well give yourself a new opportunity to find success in a different niche. All right, so I hope you found this information useful. And if you did, please subscribe to my channel, give this video a good thumbs up, leave me a little comment, let me know what topics you'd like me to make videos about because I love making these videos for you. Bye-bye.